My talk today is going to give my background, a turning point in my faith journey, and an incident where faith really got me through a dark time. I was raised in a Christian home. I will say we attended church and prayed, but never had that deep relationship with God like I do now. I had some things happen back to back in college and wondered, why would God keep allowing things like this to happen? So I fell away from my faith and my walk with God. I became a nurse, and after a couple of years left to do a travel nursing assignment. I was alone on my first travel assignment and felt the aloneness, and this prompted me to get back into my faith in church. I want to point out that if you give your kids a strong foundation when they are younger, it will hopefully always point them back when they stray, like it did for myself. I went to a bookstore and bought myself a student Bible. I had a hard time understanding what I read in the Bible and hoped that this would help my journey. I vividly remember taking it on hikes with me, sitting by a river and reading the Bible and getting back into it. I reconnected with my now husband. We were friends in high school, got married, and moved to Georgia for his job. Georgia is where we found our home, SouthCrest Church, and my faith really started to grow. I found a core group of friends that pushed me to do Bible studies, and my faith really started to grow even more. I was still working as a nurse, and now I was in the pediatric ICU, which is the intensive care unit. I met a little girl that was a patient of mine, and this was a huge turning point in my faith. I'm allowed to share her story and her name. Her name was Madeline Monroe. She was 6 years old. I was working a Friday when they brought her in. We found a huge brain tumor, one of the largest that many had seen in our field. She had to undergo emergency brain surgery. I was her nurse all weekend. I was even with the family when the doctor sat them down to tell them there wasn't much more that they could do for her, and she only had about a year to live. I became very close with this family in their journey, and the one thing that caught my attention was their unwavering faith. They still held on to their faith even in the worst of times. Madeline lived for 2 years until she met her Lord and was healed. But here's the turning point for me and something that I will always carry with me. Her dad at the funeral gave a speech, and he was asked many times, how can you still have your faith and not be angry with God for taking your little girl at such a young age? And his response is one of the most powerful messages. I want you to really pay attention here. He said, God was with us through it all. If I focused on the bad, I would have missed all the blessings and where God actually was. He was with me on the night of her surgery. A woman neurosurgeon was on and braided her hair during the surgery. She was in beauty pageants, so her hair was very important to her. He was there when our community mowed our lawn. He was there when 2 little girls sold their goat to raise money for the Monroe family, and that goat ended up getting sold more over and over and over to raise even more money for the family. He was there when Madeline's best friend got baptized and accepted Jesus into her heart because she saw Madeline's faith. And he was there when the community took care of our other children and so many more like that he listed. I would go over my time limit if I listed all the things, but you kind of get the picture. And that was my turning point. God never leaves us in the dark times. It may not be the way that we want him to show up, but it'll be the way that we need him to show up, and we may not even know it at that time. If this family could keep their faith during a dark time like that, then why couldn't I? Little did I know that this turning point in my faith was about to carry me through one of the darkest and toughest years of my life, all in God's timing. Last summer, our family experienced a very dark time. We went through a traumatic event, and not one that many have walked through, thankfully. Our good friend was in a domestic abusive situation, and we didn't even see it or the signs. The husband attempted to kill her, and I was there as soon as the event happened to step in and care for the children. I immediately called our church for prayers of healing, and I also called a Pine Cove counselor that we had just hosted in our house and became very close to, and got the whole Pine Cove team to pray for this family as well. I prayed with the kids, and my kids also going through this, and let me say that the power of prayer is powerful. We talk about all the miracles that are in the Old Testament, but in this modern day, I experienced a miracle because my friend lived. Even the doctors told her that she shouldn't have lived. So why do I say all this? Because in God's timing, I was able, from Madeline's story, to remember to look for good where he was at in our dark time. I was able to see him in the friends and neighbors that dropped off meals and groceries to us, the ones that dropped off children activity baskets on my front porch, bringing smiles to our kids' faces, the neighbors that gave us access to their homes to use their pools for privacy and to have some fun, a trip to the beach to get away, the encouraging calls and text messages, people to help us all get into counseling, and so many more stories like that. So God will see you through the dark times. He will walk alongside you. So once again, remember, it may not be the way that you want him to, but if you focus on the bad things of the situation that you're going through, you will miss all the blessings. My friend and her kids are doing great and so happy now. They are finally living a life of freedom. In the dark time, it would have been very hard to see why this had happened, but I can tell you it's there now. A friend gave me a card with this verse, and it became my daily motto to keep going. Isaiah 41:10 in the NCV version. Don't worry, because I am with you. Don't be afraid, because I am your God. I will make you strong and will help you. I will support you with my right hand that saves. So my prayer for all of you today is to remember this verse and to look for the blessings that you may miss if you instead focus on the situation that you're going through. I know from this day forward that my faith will never waver and I will always stand firm and that God is always present. Thank you.